Lol, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon. So today we'll be talking about the part 3 of NAV 2016 with IN localization to Business Central 26. Now, as I've said on the part 1 and part 2, if you are not doing it for Indian version of Business Central from NAV 2016, then don't watch this video. This is specifically for India localization. Okay. Having said that and making it clear, let's do a quick recap. In the part 1 and part 2, what we did, we understood where we need to be on version 26. We did the cleanup that's needed on NAV 2016. Then from there, we upgraded the data to Business Central 14 India, which is a placeholder version. And then using Microsoft upgrade routine, we moved the data from the CAL tables for India localization to AL extensions in Business Central 14. And this is how our environment look like right now. Let's have a look. Okay. So in Business Central 14, we have all the India localization extension available, and rest of the data is still in CAL. If you remember the environment, we have 3 companies, I guess, at this moment, and we understood how it need to happen and all. So all India localization data is here, and rest of the data is still in our CAL version, everything W1. Now, from here, I was looking for Microsoft article, but I guess it ends early. But I'm pretty sure that we can directly go to version 25. But let's talk about it first. Okay. So yeah, before I go there, thank you for all your comments on the first 2 parts. And I see that there are a lot of another video requests into those. I guarantee you that we'll talk about all those topics that you are recommending on those comments. But give me some time. It's not gonna happen tomorrow. Okay, so keep your comments and suggestion coming into the videos, and that'll help us to understand where we want to do, what content helps you. Now on this series, in the previous videos I've asked what would be your target version on-prem or cloud. I guess I got 2 comments about going to the cloud, and 1 comment on social media to go on-prem. Don't worry, we'll do both. But now let's understand, as of today, when we are recording this, version 26 is the latest version that's available on cloud as well as on-prem. Till version 25, we were able to kind of directly upgrade to version 25. But with version 26, there had been certain changes, which is not part of discussion of this video, but I'll highly encourage why you cannot directly go to Business Central 26 from any prior version to watch this video. Business Central 26 setup plus major changes that you must know. Highly encourage you to watch this. I'll put the link in the description and pin comment to understand that why we have to stop at version 25 if you haven't watched it. For today, what we have done is we have already installed version 25 India localization. So if you go here, it's version 25.6 which has been installed, and we'll be taking this database, which is currently on Business Central 14 with AL extension for India localization, to version 25. Now whenever you're doing upgrade, and this is not just for India, you should always go to the Microsoft documentation, understand the kind of how you read through this documentation. Now currently we are on an upgrading to Business Central 2025 release wave 1. The first thing that you should always check is the compatibility matrix for upgrading. This is very important. You should never leave it. Before doing anything on your upgrade, make sure to visit this page. The link will be in the pinned comment, so don't worry about it. So before you choose your target version, where you want to go, you need to understand how Microsoft have written these upgrade code units. These are written specifically based on your source version, cumulative update, and the target version. So currently we are sitting at Business Central 14 CU52, and we want to go to, let's say, version 26, if somebody want to try that, right? So for version 26, if you're coming from version 25, you need to check what is your source version and then what is the matching version 26 at this moment. Now this is not exactly the matching version. How you need to read this is, if you are from in any CU from 25.0 to 25.5, you can upgrade to 26.0 or higher. So you can always go to 26.1, but the minimum that you can go is 26.0, and maybe this will be clear here. So let's say if you are coming from 24.9 and you want to go to 25, right, which is weird. Oh no, that makes sense, and I'll talk about it. 24.9 and you have to go to 25, you can go to 25.4 or higher. Oh sorry, or higher. From 24.9 you cannot go to 25.0. That's how these different CUs kind of play a very important role. Coming down here to our version, which is version 14 at this moment, you'll notice, and let me expand this table, we are on 52. Okay, it's going down and then coming up. Yeah, CU52, which is 14.53. So if I look at it, I can go to any version of 21.13 or higher, which is no version after that, 22.7 minimum, or 23.1 minimum. So I can go to 23.1 or higher, and then the last column is 24 and 25. So from the current version, which is BC14 CU52, I can go to any version of 24 and 25. I'll not be able to go to 26 at this moment. So by reading this document, I'm pretty sure that I should be looking at 2024 release wave 2, which is my version 25. Now here under application and data, you'll find two articles, or three articles more or less. One is unmodified CAL. That means you don't have any customizations in CAL where we are sitting right now. It's completely Cronus at this moment, and all the extension data is in AL. If you are doing it from customized, then there is a separate article and there is a video about it, not for India localization at this moment, but we'll be referring to this article for the video. We are going from version 14, BC14, to version 25.6 at this moment. Whatever is written into this document, we'll just follow it as it is and see what happens after that. Okay. For India, there will be some extract in the middles like this highlighted, that if you are upgrading for India localization of NAV 2016, you must do certain different step. So you can just from top to bottom follow this article and you'll be good there. Okay, so how it goes, let's understand it. The first thing first is pop up your PowerShell, because that's where all the fun is, right? And let me open my BC14 to 25 step 1. Now these PowerShell will be available on GitHub, so don't worry, you don't have to kind of note anything, and I'll explain you about all these points. So let's get started. Okay, so first thing first, we are on Business Central 14. The first thing that we need to do is remove all the extension, which is uninstall and unpublish all the extension that are available in our environment. By doing so, we are kind of making it sure that it is ready to do a technical conversion into the future version. As we have seen in the prior videos, that when we were coming from NAV 2016 to BC14, we had to do a technical conversion by opening our 2016 database with a BC14 executable. Even in Business Central version that happens, but with a PowerShell command. So first thing first, we have to remove all the extension. So this line, get all the extension on the server, on the service tier that you are pointing it to, which is BC140, And then for each extension that is found, it is running the uninstall nav app command. Then the line number 17 is actually unpublishing each extension that is found in that tenant. Now, if you have seen the part 2, you might remember that we talked about publishing the system and the test symbol only apps. So before upgrading, you also have to remove those. Once it is done, you just stop your service and you're good for your next steps. Now, don't worry, unpublishing an extension or uninstalling an extension does not remove your data. Your data is still intact with Microsoft in your in your database, unless you do something like mode clean, which you should not be doing. So don't worry about it. If you are here, I'll be running it into parts because sometime based on the dependencies of extension, some of the extension may not get uninstalled at one go. So let's run the first set. It'll start removing all the extensions that I have in my BusinessCentral 14, and you might see some errors. And let's read it because I get a question sometime. The extension cannot be unpublished because it is required by ABC app. As I said, there are cross dependencies which will require you to run this command multiple times unless you end up at a stage where there are no errors. So let's try running this again. Number of errors have been reduced to 2. I'll run it again, and this time no errors. Once that is done, what we're going to do is we are going to stop the service, so running the whole loop set altogether. Now this will stop my BusinessCentral 140 service where my database is. At this moment, I'm very good to move forward with converting my database to the future version. So you can just quickly check here. Our BC140 service is now set to stopped, and similar with the client that I cannot access it. Okay, what next? Now in version 17 or 19, I don't exactly remember, but somewhere around that, Microsoft have discontinued the FLF file which we were using in the past for licenses, right? And they have replaced it with something called as .bc license file. Now the license that is stored in your database is actually stored in some of the system tables. So before moving ahead or before doing a technical conversion of the database, we need to make sure that we remove the references of our old file or old license file. Now this command, you will find it here. I have placed it here. You can use it if needed, and I'll just copy it from here and put it in my SQL Server. Okay, so here is our database. Let's do a new query and let's paste this. I'll remove the comment. I've just kept it in comment in PowerShell so that it doesn't run that step, but you can decide how you want to keep it. Now what we are doing at this step is we are removing all the FLF file references in my SQL Server and in my database. So the first one is removes it from the SQL Server master database, where when you do a upload license in NAV, the reference of that gets stored into your master database. Whereas when you do a save license in database, then it sits inside the database in these two tables with the field name license. So we're just setting that off and we are removing that license. So let's run this. Okay, so license has been removed. So we are good at this point to move further with our target version, which is BC25. So how we do that? For your simplicity, I always get this question, and that's the reason for your simplicity. What we have done and is we have baked all those commands into one single PowerShell, and we'll talk about it how it works. Now remember, if you're also using PowerShell like I am using, you will have to close it and then reopen it for running command for the step 2 at this moment. So the first thing first is we are importing the module of BusinessCentral 25, which kind of explains PowerShell that what commands are available with this particular module. The first step is to convert to database, and see, I've copied it from somewhere to version 25. Okay, so this is equivalent to opening your database in NAV with a higher exe. When you do a conversion of your database, that step is kind of being executed here, where we are doing an invoke NAV application database conversion. Now in Business Central world, there is no development environment as in the dev environment that we were familiar in NAV. So Microsoft have replaced it with the PowerShell command. So as you run this with two parameters, one is the database server, where your database is, and the database name that you want to convert. The system will check that are there any services mapped to it, and are the extension installed or not, and then it'll do the conversion, and you'll get a message like this. This have been converted to the supported version that's needed for BusinessCentral 25. Now I'll run this, and then I'll explain you as these commands are running, because it can take some time to run. Okay, so let it run. Okay, so the first line, which is line number 14, is, or all these 14 to 17 is trying to change settings on your service file, which is mapped to your database, right? So the first command, line number 14, is changing the database name parameter or database server parameter. The second command, line number 15, is updating the database name on your service tier. The line number 16 is only applicable when you are coming from legacy NAV or CEL environment, because here we are explaining the destination app for migration. Now at this moment, all the data that is sitting on all the CAL table will move to multiple Microsoft extension, right? And this kind of list all the apps that are coming from Microsoft Core. So you'll notice that there is a system application reference, there is a business foundation application reference, there is base application reference, and then there is, that's it. That's the reason, if you have seen my other videos, I refer all these extensions as my core extension, because when you are coming from NAV, your data is there is no data. Let's take an example of sustainability app, right? There's an app called for sustainability. You don't have any data around sustainability in BC14. So there is no need of that app to begin with at that point when you are upgrading, right? I've converted it, sorry. So all the data that is in your BC14 kind of redirects into majorly into these three apps: the system application, the business foundation, and the base app. And that's where this property of destination app for migration helps the upgrade routine to understand the table name in NAV and what is kind of the mapping table name in the BC version. Then this line is disabling the task scheduler, so that if you have job queues running and something, it should not run during the upgrade process. This command restarts the service so that all the changes that we have made kind of gets implemented. And then this command imports the license, your partner developer license, into it, the BC license file, and then restart the service. So let me run this also, and I'll explain you what this is, because this can take some time. Okay. So as I was talking about line number 16, the same kind of get applies here. All the data in our NAV system of BC14 belongs to one of these apps from Microsoft. Yes, there are more apps from Microsoft. If you open the product DVD, and let me show it to you, in your version 25.6, when you head up to application section, we see a lot of apps here, right? Like this. We have all these different apps in the product DVD, which is 66 as of today on 25.6. But you don't have data in all these apps, right? Because in NAV you did not had, let's say, data archive feature. So even if there are table associated with it, your NAV had no data around it. Your data is actually part of the four core apps which I was talking about here: the system application, the business foundation, the base, and the application. The business foundation kind of got splitted from the base app as a new app, and in the same way system application kind of extracted some of the features from base app, which are the common to all the applications or areas in Business Central. So all your data that you have in your client system belongs to one of these apps, because the India localization data is already moved to an extension. So whatever left right now for W1 perspective sits in one of these extensions. Now let's talk about what does a publish do. So a publish command picks up the app that you have provided the path with, and then tries to kind of review first that is there an app with the same name or not. If not, then it tries to publish that app into your environment. Now, depending on how big your app is, it may take less or more time. So the biggest app even today from the core apps perspective is the base app. Now you cannot change the order of these apps because that's how they are built. There is a dependency which is going from system application with zero dependency. Business foundation have one dependency, which is for system application. Base application, which did not had any dependency other than system application in the past, now also have a dependency with business foundation. So if you are trying to publish base app, before publishing it will look for a business foundation and a system application, and then the application app, which is a wrapper, looks for the base, business foundation, and system application. And this is a developer thing, but that's how your symbols are downloaded and all in VS Code. So right now what we are doing is we are publishing all these four core apps that we have. What happens next? Now this is for any country that you're doing. If you remember, in the beginning of this video we saw that we had some apps for India localization. So what we have done is we have built a section of all the India apps which are required for version 25. Now some of them already existed in Business Central 14 and some of them were released after that. So we'll be publishing those also, but these are only for India localization because our system in Business Central 14 have these apps available. Now it's taking a little bit of time, but hopefully I was able to explain you what's happening when you're trying to publish these apps. So let's wait for it for a minute and let's see how it goes. Okay, so the core apps are now installed. As you can see, the service restart also happened, and I have a typo here, so let me correct it for you so that you don't laugh at me when you use the script. Okay. Now I'm going to publish all the India related apps which are available with Business Central 25, and then we'll move ahead. Now it's a similar step that these apps do exist in the version in the environment, and we are kind of publishing the newer version of this app. The rules remain same, that you need to follow the same order because it's based on the dependencies of it. So you can't just go ahead and install fixed asset deprecation for India directly without having whatever is required for that. So follow the same order as listed in this or as listed in the Microsoft article, because that's how I have generated this script. Once the publishing of app is done, what we'll be doing is we'll be synchronizing the tenant. Now, what synchronization does is similar to what it does in NAV. It just validates that whatever changes that we have done into the environment by publishing these apps is not deleting any data. There's no data loss at this moment. So anytime you run the sync, and if it takes time, don't worry. It is for the safety of the data that's available in the tenant. So the synchronization tenant will review the impact of these extension on the data, and if there is any data that may get lost due to any of these extension, it'll error out at that moment. Once that happens, then we have to synchronize each and every app that we are publishing right now, which is the sync step for core, and then in the similar way we have a sync steps for IN apps. Now what does the sync NAV app does? Did you find it surprising that even in the Business Central world, the PowerShell command is still called as NAV app, right? I always find it funny that it should be sync BC app now, at least now, hopefully someday in future. So the sync and app is when you're publishing these apps on the first step, it just gets placed in your environment, but it's not operational and all. It haven't checked that any data loss is happening or not. That step is performed with the sync. So when you perform the sync of each and every app that you have published, it just verifies again that there is no data loss by introducing these apps. And we'll talk about the other part of the sync in a while. While this is happening or completed, I'll run the synchronization tenant. This will sync or kind of review the changes that has been done on this, and if there are any errors in the process, it'll show me the error in the PowerShell window. Coming back to the sync discussion. So for the core apps, it's okay because these apps are not available in my current environment. But for the India apps that I have, I already have a Business Central version 14 app references in my environment because we installed them and then unpublished and uninstalled. But there is metadata associated with these apps which exist in my Business Central BC14 environment. To clearly explaining the sync command, which version of the app need to be synchronized, you will notice that there is a version parameter at the end. How you read it? That we want you to run the sync on an app. The app is deployed on this particular service. If you have a tenant, then it tells you on which tenant, and then what is the name of the app, and if there are multiple versions available, just explaining the process that which exact version we need it to synchronize, we specify the sync version or the version of the app that we want to synchronize. So as the sync nav tenant completed without any error, we are going to sync core apps right now. Now this will take some time because there are a lot of tables associated behind the scene with these apps. And you just want to make sure that whatever is coming from NAV has a matching table in BC, and that is have the same field structure and so on and so forth. So with this, it'll verify that the version that you have specified for all of these apps is not making any data loss against the current schema, table schema that we have. So that's always a very important step to run. So let's wait for this and then we'll see how we synchronize India apps at that moment. Okay, so we have an error message. So while doing the sync, the process error out with the error message, text optimized index cannot be created because SQL Server full text search component is not installed. Now from version 25, and I should have done it by myself, when you read through the documentation also, it'll tell you on the top here that you need to make sure that you have full text service installed or not. Now this is a SQL Server command, so you can just go into your SQL Server, do a new query, run this. I'm pretty sure it's not installed on my system, and there's a separate video of how to do it or not. It returns me 0, that means it's not installed. Now how you kind of install it is, let's see, this is viewing, and I'll have to kind of open my SQL Server installation center and make sure that this feature is added or not. So give me a moment and I'll get this sorted out by installing the text search. Okay, so I've installed the full text and semantic extraction for search. If you don't know it, there's a video about it, how you kind of do it. I didn't want it to kind of distract from the actual content. Okay, coming back here, let's try to synchronize these again, because now whatever the component is required is available. Okay, because these are already synchronized, so it started doing it with the base app, and I'm pretty sure it kind of failed at the base app, because base app kind of utilizes to create these indexes which require the full text feature. So make sure you have it before you start your upgrade on your SQL Server, because even if you're going to cloud, you need to upgrade to Business Central 25 before you take your next step to cloud. So we'll wait for it, and once this is done, I'll start this synchronization of India apps. Okay, so the sync for the core apps is over, and now let's synchronize apps for India localization. So I'm running all them in one single batch, and it'll take some time to kind of synchronize these apps, but they are doing the similar thing as the core app did. But the only difference is that these apps have a prior version available in the tenant. So there is a version 14 for some of these apps which is already available, and some of them are new. So we'll see that once this is over, how you can understand, how you can check what is the data version of the app, what is the version of the app that is installed. So there are PowerShell command which will help you to see that. Okay, this is over. So what you can do is you can do a get nav app info on your server instance, which is in my case BC252. I would like to see for tenant default, and these are important parameters if you want to see all the detail. And then I would like to view it in a grid view. Now when I do that, what will happen is it'll open a grid for you, a Excel grid, and here you will be able to see what all extensions you have. Now there are certain things to pay attention here. This is the base app. If you look at it, the version of the app is 25.6, but the data version is also 25.6, because this app was not available. You'll notice same for the application, system application, and business foundation, that their data version is exactly same, or is not is exactly same to the version that is published. Wherever you are seeing blank, that means that is a symbol only app, and there is no data associated with these apps. But when you look at the apps which were available in the past, you will notice that they have extension data version set to 14.53, which is Business Central 14 CU52. So like for India gate entry, there is data which is associated with the earlier version of the extension, which was installed in version 14. So by just running this command, you'll be able to see all the properties of all the extension and what is their status. So it tells you is the app installed or not, what is the sync status, does it need an upgrade, is it published. I have doubts with the upgrade thing, because everybody needs an upgrade right now at this moment. And if you don't use all these parameters, and let me give you an example, if you don't use the tenant and then specific properties in this command, you will see a slight different version than this. you will not see the data version, you will not see other properties. So always when you are running get nav app info, always make sure to add these two parameter. One is tenant and the other is tenant specific properties. Okay, so now we have synchronized all the apps that we need. It's time now to run the data upgrade. And I'm doing right now data upgrade, which means it will be taking the data from all those legacy table that I have in my BC14. So if I see now at this moment the database, you will notice a slight difference here on the naming of these tables. Okay, so let me come down. You'll see that all the tables have got the respective GUID based on the data migration setting that we have set on the service tier. So now system understand that which table is coming from which extension, and each table got it correct GUID that is associated with that extension. So when we run the data upgrade, at this step for each company, it'll run it one by one because I have set it to serial, and then I have skipped the app version check. Now whenever you run the start nav data upgrade, you will see that it's completed, but it's actually not. It's running behind the scene, and you can check the status with the get nav data upgrade. There are different options how you can run it. I prefer to see it again in the grid view because that tells me which step is running, how many steps are over for which company, and all those things. The only problem with this view is that it is not refreshable. So as you can see that there are most of them are completed, some of them are pending, and one of them is in progress. There is another version of it. If you want to see the progress, is what you can do is you can come here and use the parameter progress, and then you have to define an interval, I guess, interval of how quickly you want it to refresh. Now that doesn't run in the newer version of Business Central because with the Windows PowerShell 7.0, it doesn't show you the progress. Otherwise you'll see a progress bar at this moment to kind of see the status. Let's run it again and let's see where the status in the grid view. Okay, as you can see now everything has been completed. So all the steps which are needed to upgrade the data has been completed. Now remember, if there is an error, you will see the error message in this area, and you can also run a PowerShell command to see the errors that has been generated. Does it show my data version? Not yet, but I can always go back and run my get nav app info to see after running the upgrade what is my data version. So if you notice now, still the extension data version is pointing at 14.53 for all the apps which were still there. The data version of these apps will get updated when you run the upgrade for each and every app individually. Currently, there is a slight change that you'll notice, that as soon as we ran the data upgrade, these apps are automatically installed, which is the base application, foundation, and system application. So out of the 4 core apps, your 3 apps are automatically installed as you ran the data upgrade. Now in this step, we are installing apps which are new or the application app. So in our BusinessCentral 14, we did not have a QR generation app, we didn't have India report, and we didn't have India charge group. So with running the install nav app, these 3 apps will get installed in my environment. Because these were not available in the prior version, we don't have to run the upgrade, but let's see what happened here. Okay, let's go up. It says the extension India report by Microsoft published as a global application could not be satisfied. Okay, so these are dependent on other Microsoft app, India apps. So I'll have to just do this. Okay, this will install this because there are all the associated dependencies are available. For India, I'll have to wait for it for India apps to be upgraded or installed. So I cannot install these apps until unless its dependencies has been upgraded. So I'll be able to do it at this moment. Okay. So now what we do, we have upgrade installed the application app, and now we start running the upgrade for each and every app that I had in the prior version. Okay. And I'm sorry because these were not there, so I should not have done that. So let me remove this because these are new, so that has been handled. But for India upgrade, all these apps which are available in Business Central 14, I'll run the upgrade step. What will happen with this? The data version of all the data that is available in these respective extensions will get upgraded, and we'll be able to see that it will now point to 25.6 once this step is over. So at this moment, what's happening that inside these app there are upgrade code units which are written by Microsoft, and those code units are running at this moment and completing the data upgrade. So let's try looking at the 10 specific properties step again. So now if you look at it, the extension data version has been updated for almost all the apps other than the new apps which were not exist as prior, which we haven't installed yet. So the install flag is false only on those two apps, and all other app data has been upgraded. Okay. Now let's install these three new apps because after the upgrade, the new version is already installed. So as I install these new apps, it'll kind of get installed automatically. And technically speaking, more or less at this moment, everything from an upgrade perspective is over. But for India, things are not that simple, right? So there is an India data migration app that you'll also see in the product DVD, which is required to be publish, sync, and do the upgrade, so that whatever India associated data which may flow between different apps executes. So what you do is you first publish the NAV app, then you synchronize the NAV app, which you have done for each and every app, and then you run the start NAV data upgrade. Now whenever you run the start NAV data upgrade, that kind of take care of the data that's there. At this moment, we should be able to start our BC252 because for India localization, there is a step that we have to follow for each company. So for each company, it says go and open assisted setup. So you can just copy this from here and open the assisted setup feature. Okay, so we are on the test company. We're opening assisted setup, and then here we need to search for finalized data migration. Oh, sorry. Run setup tax engine. So there should be a setup tax engine for India that need to be run. There are two options: either replace the tax types, or you can append new tax type based on the setup that is available by Microsoft. I'll do append and do a finish. I'll start updating all the or appending the new tags that are missing in the data that was in NAV 2016. Now it's a completely different step which does not exist on other localizations, but for India it's important that you run it. The only thing that you need to remember is you have to run it in every company one by one. It does not complete if you just do it in one company. So for each company, I'll be going in and following the similar step there also. Okay, let's see if I can also pop up the same into a separate tab and do it parallelly because the data is independent So I should be able to kind of do it directly for all three companies at the same time, more or less. Here it is still running on the test company. In this one, let's pick the mock company, and in this, let's pick the Cronus company. So what we are doing is we are just trying to run this on each and every company at the same time, so that we save some time and don't do it individually. Yes, it'll be a problem if your customer have a lot more companies, but that's how it is at this moment. Okay, so let's search for assisted setup. Okay, similar way on this company, assisted setup. Okay, as it pops up, let me set up tax engine on this also. Append. Okay, and let's do a finish. Let's come into this one and set up tax engine. Let's do next, append, and next, and finish. I would highly recommend you to ask your functional consultant which option you should choose here. If they need kind of technical understanding around it, go ahead and see behind the scene what this page is and what different actions are. Don't just blindly do append, because that's just the standard option at this moment. So as it is running parallelly into the three companies, we'll wait for it to be over, and as it gets over, we'll see what next after that. Okay, so it took some time, but in all three companies, you'll notice in assisted setup, it says that the setup tax engine is completed. So we are good with all three companies. Let's see what the next step is. It says in the assisted setup, run finalized data migration. So let's run this, next, and finish. Okay, it's doing something. Done. Next, finish. Okay, next, and finish. Okay, now this is only for the India part. Wait, don't close the video, there's more to it yet. Okay, so at this moment, when you are here, when you go into your help and support, you will see that you have settings here, everything looks good. But when you read the Microsoft documentation which we were following, there are control add-ins that are part of your Dynamics NAV and BusinessCentral ecosystem, and the upgrade also requires you to update those control add-ins. Now in this particular section, from here till here, you'll have to change two things if you're using this script. One is the service name, which you know, and then this is the add-in folder. Now the add-in folder may vary if you are not installing on the default path that comes with the application. So if you are choosing a different path, pick the folder path inside your service tier, which is called add-ins, and then select this whole set. Last time when I was running this had errors in different version, but let's give it a try. So the control add-ins which you have into the system, they'll get updated with this. If there are error in 1 or 2, that's okay, because that particular add-in may not be required for your scenarios, right? Like some of these control add-ins being discontinued, and some might error out as some of them did here, but other control add-ins will be updated. What else? So the way BusinessCentral works is behind the scene there is a PowerShell command that you can use to check, which is get nav application. This will tell you what is your version, right? Okay, so when we run this today, as of today, it tells me that the application version is still 14.0. Now some of the partner ecosystem, including us at LT, we refer to this version when kind of estimating for future upgrades. So it's always mandatory that when you upgrade, you always set this application. And the way you do it is run the set nav application with the server instance and the version that you have been upgraded to with the force. After changing this, you have to synchronize the tenant and you have to kind of do a quick upgrade, which hardly takes any minute over there. You run this set, which will then update the application version behind the scene on your particular tenant. Okay, you must make sure. Oh, I'm using the system, so I cannot run the upgrade. If that happens, you can also always add a new parameter here to skip user check session check. This will not check the user session. Okay. Because I have opened the client at one place, so that's why it was giving me error that you cannot run the upgrade unless you have discontinued all the session. So now after running this, when you run the get nav application, you'll notice that your application version is now set correctly. The last but not least is to update the help and support with this key value ID. This remains same. This is the GUID for your base app. So across the globe, this will remain same for Microsoft extension. And having said that, that is all that it takes to kind of upgrade from NAV 2016 to Business Central 25 at this moment, right? Where we are today. We have all three companies. We have all the data that was there in 26 on NAV 2016. It came as it is intact. India localization data is sitting into India extension. The global data is sitting surely on the W1 extension. That's now part of this Business Central Cloud in Business Central environment, Business Central 25. Now from here, we can either go to cloud or we can stay Business Central on-prem 26. Okay. So the link to the GitHub portal where these PowerShell commands will be uploaded will be in the description and the pinned comment. All the websites or all the links that we talked about in this video will also be available in the pinned comment and the description of this video. Please do let me know what you thought about it. If you have any questions, please add those comments into it. I religiously will follow whatever you are saying on those comments, and if there is any specific area where you think that this video did not kind of explain that in detail, do let me know, and we might spend some time talking about just that particular area if needed. Okay, as you all know the drill at this moment. If you like the content, hit the like button. If you think this is shareable, I think it is, hopefully, then share it with at least one person who was or is struggling with Business Central India upgrades. And then if you haven't, then do subscribe to the channel. And as I always say, that if you have a business need, we are all available. You can reach out to us at info@consulting.com or connect with me on some social media account and we can surely help you with your business. So keep learning and keep sharing whatever you're learning. I'll see you sooner than later with most probably the last part of this video to either going cloud or on-prem and complete this series. Thank you. Have a nice day.